Welcome to our Sunday meditation service. I have Forrest on Sitar and Louis on tabla, and Larry, whose birthday is the same day as mine, such a special thing, is on the synthesizer. We're going to be doing a chant, but I just want to read the word for today. Joy lives in my heart. With joy as part of my spiritual identity, I find the good in every situation. As I practice gratitude, a blossoming sense of bliss and purpose fills me. So today we're going to be joyful, right? Okay, let's chant. It's call and response. I'll do the call, and then you respond. Speak with the mouth of God. Sing with the voice of God. Live in heaven, here and now. Live in heaven, here and now. Dance with the soul of God. Dance with the soul of God. Walk with the grace of God. Breathe with the air of God. Think with the mind of God. Live in heaven, here and now. Live in heaven, here and now. Hear the words of God.
Good morning, everyone. We will begin today with this quote from a book titled Open and Innocent, written by Scott Morrison. Take just a moment, if you will, to look at your life as you are living it right now. Be as honest as you can. Are you at peace? Do you love freely and without conditions? This present moment is all that you have. It's all that you will ever have. Joy and happiness are here for the taking. All you have to do is surrender. Fall openly and unguardedly in love with everyone and everything. Is that possible? Can we take this back again, please? Take just a moment, if you will, to look at your life as you are living it right now. Be as honest as you can. Are you at peace? Do you love freely and without conditions? This present moment is all you have. It's all you will ever have. Joy is happiness. Joy and happiness are here for the taking. All you have to do is surrender. Fall openly and unguardedly in love with everything and everyone. Is that possible? Well, it is possible. And this is a reference to what can be considered the simplest and most direct path to the enlightened awareness. This particular quote right here. However, the surrender to love is a problem for most people in the Western consciousness, indoctrinated by the materialistic, ego-centered illusion of life, the ego-centered definition of life. That's what is in the way of us experiencing life openly, lovingly, and truthfully, instead of from the illusions of projection through the ego-centered awareness. And it seems to us in this materialistically indoctrinated life that one should be able to will himself or herself to be loving. But that is impossible until one opens his awareness, her awareness, to the reality of the at-one-ment, as A Course in Miracles refers to it. That at-one-ment is a reference to everything that lives is part of the one mind expression, which we call God. So you can see very clearly right now that if a person is not in that level of awareness, that person will not be able to share this mystical experience called true love. That person will hold limited ideas and projections from the false definition that he or she is a separate body-mind capable of initiating love when and where it wants to. That is not happening, can't happen. We must first gain an understanding of the reality that we have been in denial of and living outside of. And that reality is reiterated over and over again in A Course in Miracles. Here it is in A Course in Miracles on page 93 in the old text, and in the new edition it's on page 101. Do you think this is a lie? I'm going to read it. Ask yourself the question, did somebody fudge this? Did Helen Schuckman decide to fake this, fudge it? When God created you, he made you part of him. That is why attack within the kingdom is impossible. You made the ego without love, and so it does not love you. You could not remain within the kingdom without love, and since the kingdom is love, you believe that you are without it. This enables the ego to regard itself as separate and outside its maker, thus speaking for the part of your mind that believes you are separate and outside the mind of God. Can we have this back again, please? When God created you, he made you part of him. That is why attack within the kingdom is impossible. You made the ego without love, and so it does not love you. You could not remain within the kingdom without love, and since the kingdom is love, you believe that you are without it. This enables the ego to regard itself as separate and outside its maker, thus speaking for the part of your mind that believes you are separate and outside the mind of God. Therefore, all healing begins with awareness. I mean all healing. You've heard me talk about the evolution of humanity. At some point, reaching a place where there will be no doctors, hospitals, pharmaceutical companies trying to sell you their drugs no matter what. Because when we arrive and the entire consciousness of humanity rises in the awareness of its independent God consciousness, it's independent of all the ego's illusions. It exists above the thinking of the world. And the masters live in that awareness. So it all begins in awareness. And that is why the egocentric illusion of life diminishes as we enter into the divine consciousness through spiritual practice. To enter the kingdom of heaven in our midst, we must open the mind to the reality of the at-one-ment. That's how A Course in Miracles refers to the enlightened state, which is at-one-ment. And other teachers and spiritual leaders speak of oneness. Consciousness of oneness is what we must enter. And this particular writer, Scott Morrison, gives us an excellent illustration on this. There is no Texas. Texas takes up a lot of space on the map, but when you're flying over it on your way across the country, it's a startling discovery. It's not really there. When you look down to find Texas, all you see is desert and rolling hills and a crazy quilt, patchwork of farms, and occasionally a tiny silver blue ribbon meandering through the middle of it all. But no Texas. Texas is nothing more than a concept, an identity, a pattern of images and feelings in the body. Since nobody questions the reality of that concept, through sort of a mass hypnosis, it takes on the appearance of a substance and a permanence that it doesn't really have. Indeed, when a Texan has thoughts about Texas, that person's body reacts with feelings, making Texas feel all the more real. Because so many people believe in Texas, we are afraid to question it for fear of looking like a fool. But look, see for yourself, there is also no Colorado, no Pennsylvania, there's no Harvard, there's no Republican Party, no government, no Roman Catholic Church, no United States, just people going to work in brick buildings and cathedrals just like you and me. Can you believe that it is possible to not just think this, because it's a clever illustration, not just think this, but to so enter into the reality being expressed here that you no longer identify with your personal limited concepts of self. I'll read it again because it is a clever illustration. There is no Texas. Texas takes up a lot of space on the map, but when you're flying over it on your way across the country, it's a startling discovery. It's not really there. When you look down to find Texas, all you see is desert and rolling hills and a crazy quilt patchwork of farms and an occasional tiny silver blue ribbon meandering through the middle of it all. But no Texas. Texas is nothing more than a concept, an identity, a pattern of images and feelings in the body. Since nobody questions the reality of that concept, through sort of a mass hypnosis, it takes on the appearance of a substance and a permanence that it doesn't really have. Indeed, when a Texan has thoughts about Texas, that person's body reacts with feelings, making Texas feel all the more real. Because so many people believe in Texas, we are afraid to question it for fear of looking like a fool. But look, see for yourself, there is also no Colorado, no Pennsylvania, no Harvard, no Republican Party, no government, no Roman Catholic Church, just people going to work in brick buildings and cathedrals, just like you and me. And when you look further into this concept being related here, you recognize how we have to release our conditioned concepts of self and life, and especially self in life, being separate from all of life. Believe it or not, that is why we are all here, attempting to enter into a consciousness called unity, where we no longer are imprisoned by limited concepts that hold us separate and apart from feeling good. Do you understand that every single person who is not feeling good, but thinking something more has to be added to his or her life, something has to be done, a move has to be made, there has to be a change, and those things out there, you don't understand. You have everything you need right now to absolutely feel good. But to do that, you've got to release the conditioned illusions you have been taught to believe in, raised to believe in. And that can only happen through spiritual practice. So, let's see. What is real and provable is oneness. See, we looked at this whole thing up here, and then I read this whole thing about Texas, and you say, okay, but is that real? I mean, is he really saying something that is true? But you can't prove it because it's not true. It's just a concept, Texas. You'll discover this I discovered this a while back, even before I was in the ministry, when I was touring with a summer stop. And we would stop in different towns and spend some time there because we were going to do a show there that night. But there are towns filled with people who believe a certain way that you know within yourself you could never live there. By the way they believe and the things that they embrace and do, and the very look of the place, you know that, boy, it would just be uncomfortable to try to live there. So they have their own isolated consciousness in some of these places, especially down in the South, where there hasn't been very much expansion in awareness to include the fact that we are one country. There are still people in their mindset perceiving and projecting the idea of their separation as a Confederate state, separate and apart from those northern states. Do you want life? Or do you want to continue? Do you want fake life? Or do you want true life? Do you want to feel good and know God in every moment? That's a choice we make every day as to whether enter into the practice of the presence of the oneness of all life that responds to love, which you can prove. You can prove oneness. You can prove love by taking the task on faith how you think about any particular person or situation or condition. If you take to task your own awareness and you want to operate from love, what you will be doing is dissolving the illusion of separation, of ego-centered grudges, concerns, worries, and fears. So we just train the mind to serve love instead of the negative thoughts of ego. This is the practice of mindfulness, learning to ask, is this thinking, this action, in keeping with the God-inspired goal of divine love? When considering a particular decision or something you're involved with, do you have the courage, the faith to turn within and ask what you really want from life? Do you want your special limited point of view to be right regardless? Or are you willing to enter into an act of faith and only be open to speak things that are motivated by love and do things that are only motivated by love. And that is why Scott Morrison writes this. Can we have this next PowerPoint, please? From Open and Innocent. It's not what you do, it's how you do it, with greed or generosity. It's not what you say, it's how you say it, with love or denial or envy. It's not what you think, it's how you think it, with wisdom or fear. It's not what happens to you, but how you are with what happens to you, with awareness or competitiveness, or understanding or anger. When the dominant motive is love, generosity, or wisdom, the result is joy, happiness, and beauty. The result is feeling good. You have just entered in to the consciousness of God. Can we have this back again, please? It's not what you do, it's how you do it, what frame of mind you're in, with greed or generosity. Is it not what you say, it's how you say it, with love or denial or envy. It's not what you think, it's how you think it, with wisdom or fear. It's not what happens to you, but how you are with what happens to you, with awareness or competitiveness, or understanding or anger. When the dominant motive is love, generosity, or wisdom, the result is joy, happiness, and beauty. The result is being one with the consciousness and intelligence that is God. And that's all we're about doing in this process of spiritual training. Training the mind to open up and experience and prove the reality that if you operate from the motive of love, sincerity, consideration, kindness, respect, everything around you will respond in kind. You will prove the presence of God as love. But that again is something that is a decision we make every day to be involved in this spiritual practice. By seeing beyond the personal concepts which divide the world into personal beliefs, we come to recognize I am the whole world, one with everyone and everything in it. I am the whole world, one with everything and everything in it. This recognition gives rise to the awareness that everyone and everything is included in my real self. This recognition gives rise to the awareness that everyone and everything is included in my real self. And that is all I say and do that is not motivated by love returns to me as well. That's why in giving we receive. Whatever we are giving, we receive. So now, it took close to 7 years for Helen Schuckman to write the Course in Miracles. And she would sit down and write that Course in Miracles. And she asked the source that came through in that writing, why did it choose her? And it answered her in an interesting way. It said, because you would do it. I think Source is asking every one of us, if you would enter into the truth being shared by A Course in Miracles, will you do it? Will you find true life? And so you could shrink A Course in Miracles down to this paragraph. In other words, if you were born in the world and you never had anything that had to do with spiritual teaching, and this particular paragraph was given to you, if you followed it, you would find your way into the divine consciousness that you were born to live in, truly live in. And that is this paragraph right here. Can we have this? It's the Course in Miracles text, page 92, paragraph 2. In the new edition, it's on page 100. You are only love. But when you deny this, you make what you are something you must learn to remember. Teach only love, for that is what you are. This is the one lesson that is perfectly unified, because it is the only lesson that is one. Only by teaching it can you learn it. As you teach, so will you learn. If that is true, and it is true indeed, do not forget that what you teach is teaching you, and what you project or extend, you believe. In short, the end part of that could be said, it is in giving that you are receiving. So whatever you're giving out from your consciousness is the way the world is appearing to you. So it is in giving that you are receiving all the time. And if you're awake, then you are learning all the time. Can we take this back again? And maybe at some point you will so totally embrace this that you'll find life so wonderful and beautiful, you'll feel good, regardless of anything else. You will just always know how to feel good. You are only love. Created in the image and likeness of God, that is true. You are only love. But when you deny this, you make what you are something you must learn to remember. Teach only love, for this is what you are. This is the one lesson that is perfectly unified, because it is the only lesson that is one. Only by teaching it can you learn it. As you teach, so will you learn. If that is true, and it is true indeed, do not forget that what you teach is teaching you. You see what that is? What you're giving out is coming back at you. So whatever you're deciding to believe and say and carry on your life in, that is returning to you in the world around you. And that is how you will see the world. Do not forget that what you teach is teaching you, and what you project or extend, you believe. So practice giving out love. Practice having consideration for everyone regardless. Practice bestowing peace in every situation you find yourself, and you will know peace that surpasses the understanding of the world. Why? Because in the world of ego-centered illusions, one only has peace when the conditions and circumstances of the world are meeting that one's expectations, desires, and demands. It's the reason why the whole world is crazy and getting crazier. The outer-directed world is going more crazy every single day. Eckhart Tolle, Master Eckhart Tolle, said, the whole world will go crazy. Look at it. Look at the outer-directed world. But the masters don't live in that world. They live in a world where they are bestowing healing because their consciousness is steeped in sharing love, peace, compassion. So you see, that's our journey out of the madness of the world. So instead of having negative thoughts about conditions in the world and responding to them, instead transcend those feelings. Take to task your awareness. Bestow love. Bestow peace. Bestow compassion. Be one with God. So I am going to share with you a story that I am sure most of you have heard and been part of and seen. But I'm going to share it again because it is such a powerful, true story that it will have its effect. It's a story about love. I'm sure most of you are aware of this true story, which took place between 1969 and 1972. Two men from Australia moved to England and took an apartment there in Chelsea. They visited some of the sites. Among them, they visited Harrods department store, which at that time was legally capable of selling wildlife or wild animals. As it turns out, Harrods in England came into a baby lion that was born in a zoo, a terrible zoo, where the animals were all mistreated. They came into this baby lion and they had it in their store for sale. These two Australian guys saw this baby lion and said, oh, let's buy this beautiful pet. So they bought this lion and they took it back to their pad in Chelsea, which is a city, and they raised it until it got so big it could no longer live in the city. I mean, just people seeing it when they walked down the street really had them concerned. So they went through a hell of a lot of red tape and did everything they could till finally they worked it out so that they could release this lion, which they had named Christian. They could release this lion to a preserve in Africa. And they had to go with the whole trip. And they didn't know if this lion would survive in the wilds because it had been born only in captivity, raised by the two of them. And so it was a chance they took. This lion was released in this reserve, this wildlife reserve in Africa. And then it went about its business of really becoming a lion. And so they left, feeling they had done what they could, and they returned. They returned a year later to see how things had turned out. And this video tells that whole story. Can we have the video? We'll take an offering for unity now. No, we won't. We'll do a meditation. I still have some time. Just take a couple of deep breaths. And as you release your breath, we'll bring our musicians back in. So this meditation is one I use a lot, using the truth of the name of God that everyone uses. Just take these words, take these words into your awareness. I am they. I am he. I am you. I am she. Everything you think of me. Everything you do to me. Be still and know that I am God. as we go forth from this meditation to those places we occupy in time and space. Let us go forth with a greater determination to practice the presence, the motivation of love. For this opportunity in every moment, we give thanks. To this we say, Amen. We will take an offering for unity now. And those of you tuning in online, these are the ways that you can donate to Unity of Boulder. So let's all bring to mind that gift we'd like to make, and let's bless it with this offering prayer. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. So it is. Move into those spaces we occupy. We have our 11 o'clock service with Santisha, and we have our group meeting in Fellowship Hall. We have all kinds of treats over there that if you'd like to partake of some tea and hang around and talk, we'll be discussing anything you want to talk about in that group circle on the dance floor. So, to everyone, have a beautiful day.